If this story moved you even just a little, let us know where you're watching from in the comments. We love seeing how far these stories travel. Whether you're in Texas, Toronto, or Tokyo, your presence matters here. And if you haven't yet, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because tomorrow's episode is one you won't want to miss. It's a story of love, choices, and second chances that will stay with you long after the video ends. See you then, same time, same place, but a brand new story. My name is Rachel. I'm 35 years old, a college professor in a small university in Northern California. I've been teaching for nearly a decade now, and while the job comes with its fair share of stress and grading marathons, there's something about being around young people that keeps me grounded. Especially the ones who carry more than just backpacks, the ones who carry the weight of life far too early. I've always had a soft spot for students who are trying to rise above their circumstances. You know the type, working 2 or 3 jobs just to afford tuition and still showing up to class with tired eyes and hopeful hearts. Over the years, I've quietly helped a few of them. Nothing flashy, sometimes a meal card, sometimes a gas gift card, sometimes just a safe space to cry, but this story isn't about all of them. This story is about one student, Eli. Eli is 23, quiet, respectful, and always looked like he hadn't slept a full night in years. At first, I thought he was just uninterested. He'd doze off in class, slump over his notebook, and never raise his hand. But after a full week of watching him struggle to stay awake, I decided to say something. That Thursday afternoon, he was surprisingly awake when the bell rang. I asked him to stay behind. He nodded without question and sat back down. Eli, I said gently, can I ask you something? I've noticed you're often exhausted in class. Is everything okay? He hesitated for a moment, then offered a tired but sincere answer. I wake up at 5 a.m. to get my little brothers ready for school. Then I work as a dishwasher from 10 to 2. At night, I sell street food outside the Stadium Balut in Pinoy. It's the only thing I haven't dropped since starting school. I blinked. It wasn't the answer I expected. My parents passed away in a highway accident when I was in high school, he continued. It's just me now. I can't give up any more work. We need the money. There was no bitterness in his voice. Just calm honesty, the kind you don't expect from someone his age. I sat quietly for a few seconds before speaking again. Well, in that case, bring me some of those eggs you're selling. I'll buy 10. Just deliver them to my office before you leave at night. He looked surprised. Are you serious, ma'am? I am. And not just once. Every night. I'll help you move inventory and maybe get to sleep earlier. And from that day on, he did. Every night before I left campus, Eli would drop off his basket and hand me 10 warm eggs, still smelling faintly of vinegar and salt. I'd give a few to the night guards, a few students working late, and bring a couple home. My husband never asked. I just told him I liked them, but deep down I think I just liked helping him. Even before I realized how much that small connection would change everything. A few weeks passed, and every evening like clockwork, Eli would appear outside my office, quiet, polite, holding his basket of warm balut. I paid him cash every time, never asked for discounts, and he never missed a day. What started as a small act of kindness quickly became a quiet ritual neither of us acknowledged, but both relied on. Then, one night, something unexpected happened. It was later than usual. I had just finished grading midterms and was shutting off the lights when I stepped outside and saw 2 teenage boys standing by the parking lot. I didn't think much of it at first, until one of them stepped forward, reached for my purse, and pulled out a knife, a switchblade. I froze. My heart pounded so loud I could barely hear anything. My breath caught in my throat. I didn't even scream. Fear had locked my voice inside me. All I could think about was getting home to my kids. I was about to hand the bag over when out of nowhere, someone charged in and knocked the guy to the ground. It was Eli. He had tackled the boy so hard. The switchblade went flying. Run! He shouted, grabbing my arm. I didn't question him. We took off down the sidewalk, dodging through bush and parked cars, not stopping until we were blocks away. My lungs burned. My legs shook. But his grip stayed firm, steady, strong, protective. When we finally stopped under a street lamp, both of us panting, he looked at me and said, "Are you okay, Miss Rachel?" I nodded, barely getting the words out. Why were you there?" "I was coming to bring the eggs. Saw them cornering you." He smiled sheepishly, and I felt a strange twist in my chest, something between fear, adrenaline, and something else I couldn't quite name. "Thank you," I whispered. "It's nothing." He shrugged. "You've done more for me than you know." After a pause, I reached into my purse and handed him the usual cash. "You're still getting paid," I joked. He laughed, and it broke the tension. For a brief moment, it didn't feel like teacher and student anymore. It felt like two people, two humans, just trying to get through life in their own messed up ways. From that night on, something changed. Eli was no longer the quiet student who sold eggs. He was the boy who had saved me. He started showing up to class more alert, more focused, and honestly, more alive. He sat in the front row, asked questions, and even tutored others. And as for me, I started thinking about him more than I should have. Not as a student, but as someone significant. It scared me, because no matter how innocent our connection had been, it was evolving. And deep down, I knew that crossing certain lines, even for the right reasons, could come at a cost neither of us were ready to pay. By then, it was already too late. The night it all changed started with rain, soft at first, like a whisper against the windows. But by the time classes ended, it was pouring so hard the sidewalks turned into rivers. I had planned to leave early, but I was stuck. My car was parked at the far end of the lot, and the water was already ankle deep. I was gathering my things when I got a text. "Are you still on campus? It's flooding out there. Want me to walk you out?" Eli, I didn't answer right away. But 5 minutes later, there was a knock on my office door. It was him, soaking wet, holding a cheap umbrella and 2 plastic bags. "I figured you'd still be here," he said with that same soft smile. "I can't get to my car," I admitted. "Then come to my place. It's just 2 blocks away. You'll be safe until the rain stops." I hesitated, but then thunder cracked and the lights flickered. I texted my husband, told him roads were flooded. I'd stay near campus. He offered to pick me up, but I said no. The kids needed him, and honestly, part of me didn't want him to come. So I went with Eli. We walked in silence under his small umbrella, shoulders brushing. His place was bigger than I expected, an old 2-story house left behind by his parents. It had a certain warmth, even if it was messy from lack of time to clean. "Sorry for the clutter," he said, pushing aside books in a laundry basket. "It's fine," I said. "I'm the one intruding." He showed me to his room. "You can take the bed," he offered. "I'll sleep on the floor." At first, I declined, but he insisted. As the storm outside raged, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring. Out the rain-blurred window, I couldn't sleep. Everything felt too quiet, too tense. My heart wouldn't stop racing, and it wasn't just from the thunder. He was lying on the floor, scrolling on his phone. The dim flashlight cast shadows across the room. At one point, I turned to him and whispered, "Are you awake?" He sat up. "Yeah, couldn't sleep either. I think I'm just nervous," I said. "I don't know why." Then lightning flashed, loud, violent. I flinched and, without thinking, reached out. He caught my hand. "It's okay," he said, his voice low. Before I could respond, I was in his arms. Not forcefully, not planned, it just happened. I should have pulled away, but I didn't. And when he leaned in, I didn't stop him. That night, I forgot who I was. I wasn't a wife. I wasn't a professor. I was just a woman lost in a storm, clinging to warmth that felt dangerously right. We crossed a line more than once, and when the morning came, I wasn't sure if the guilt I felt was stronger than the longing, but I knew. This nothing would ever be the same again. The next morning, sunlight leaked through the curtains like nothing had happened. Like the world had just moved on. But I hadn't. I sat up slowly, wrapped in a blanket that wasn't mine. In a room that suddenly felt too small. Eli was already awake, dressed, making coffee downstairs. I could hear the kettle whistle and his footsteps echo across the wooden floor. I wanted to pretend nothing happened. I wanted to walk out, say thank you, and forget the night before ever existed, but I couldn't, because every part of me still felt him. His touch, his warmth, the way he had looked at me like I was the only thing that mattered. And worse, I didn't feel regret. I felt alive. I texted my husband again. Stayed safe, roads were flooded. I'll be home this morning. He sent back a heart emoji and told me to drive safely. I stared at that message for a long time. The guilt finally started to sink in. By the time I stepped out of Eli's house, the storm had passed, but inside me, it had just begun. Over the next few days, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I replayed that night over and over, wondering how I let it happen. I was a married woman, a mother, a professor, and Eli was my student. The lines we crossed weren't just unethical, they were irreversible. I skipped 2 days of class, claiming I was sick. When I finally returned, I avoided eye contact, avoided him, but Eli wasn't there. He didn't show up. Not that day. Not the next. Not the one after that. I couldn't help it. I drove to his house. His younger brother opened the door. "He's not here," he said. "He's out selling." I waited. When Eli came back, he looked surprised to see me, but not angry. Just tired. "Why didn't you come to class?" I asked. He shrugged, set his basket down. "I figured it was better if I stayed away." "That's not the solution, Eli." "No," he said softly. "But neither is pretending like nothing happened." There was a pause, heavy, unspoken. "I care about you, Rachel. I think I always have. But I know this can't be real. You have a family, a life. I don't want to ruin that." His voice cracked on the last word, and for the first time I saw just how much I had affected him. "You didn't ruin anything," I said. "We both made a mistake." "A mistake?" he repeated. It didn't feel like one. I wanted to reach for him, to comfort him. But I didn't, because deep down I knew he was right. It hadn't felt like a mistake. And that was exactly the problem. I left his house without another word. I didn't cry until I got home. And even then I cried quietly, not for what had happened, but because I knew. It was already too late to undo it. 5 years passed. I never saw Eli again after that night at his doorstep. Life simply went on. I threw myself into work, into motherhood, into trying to salvage a marriage that, deep down, I knew had already slipped through my fingers long before the storm ever came. But I stayed. I stayed out of duty, out of fear, out of habit. Then, the unthinkable happened. My husband was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. It moved fast, too fast. Within months, he was bedridden. I quit my job to care for him, full time. I watched the man I once loved disappear day by day, until finally he was gone. Just like that, I was a widow. The grief was sharp at first, but over time it turned quiet, more of a numb ache than a wound. And then one afternoon, while picking up groceries, I saw someone in the checkout line. Tall, well-dressed, a little older, but unmistakably familiar. It was Eli. He turned around and saw me, and for a moment we just stared. No words, no gestures. Just two people realizing fate had spun the wheel one more time. "Rachel?" he finally said. "Hey," I breathed out, barely above a whisper. "You look different. So do you." We stepped outside, and before I knew it, we were catching up over coffee in the corner of a quiet cafe. He told me he was working for a major firm in the Bay Area, that he'd finished school elsewhere after dropping out from mine, that he got married a few years ago and lost his wife shortly after childbirth, a car crash. just like his parents. I guess loss follows me, he said, forcing a broken smile. I couldn't say anything. I just reached for his hand. We sat in silence again, letting the weight of everything hang between us. I never stopped thinking about you, he finally said. Even when I tried to. I thought I'd never see you again, I whispered. I thought maybe it was all something I'd imagined. It wasn't, he said. None of it was. A week later, he asked to see me again. This time. Somewhere far from home, somewhere quiet. We met in Monterey by the water. No distractions, no expectations, and there as the waves crashed and the wind tugged at our jackets, he said it. I still love you. My breath caught in my throat. I loved you then and I love you now. I don't care about the rules. I just want a life with you. I didn't answer right away, but I didn't walk away. Either. 2 weeks later, we stood in front of a small courthouse in Santa Cruz. No guest, no announcements. Just us. Two people who had made mistakes, lived through loss, and still found their way back. It wasn't a fairy tale. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. And that somehow was more than enough. If this story touched your heart, made you pause, or brought back a memory you've kept buried, don't just scroll away. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? What part of this story struck you the most? Have you ever experienced a moment where love and timing didn't quite align? Or perhaps, like Rachel and Eli, life surprised you when you least expected it? Your thoughts matter here. This isn't just a channel, it's a place where stories live and where people connect through emotion, truth, and second chances. Every comment you share helps someone else feel less alone. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We release new heart-stirring stories like this every day. Don't miss the next chapter, it might just be the one. That mirrors your own life. So scroll down, hit that like button, and leave a comment. Whether it's a sentence or a full story, we're listening. And we can't wait to read what you have to say. Until tomorrow's story. Stay kind, stay strong, and never stop believing in love, even the imperfect kind.